some other project, and Deborah Aquila, who's I believe she was the casting agent on this, called me up and called my representation. Said, look, there's this project called Primal Fear. Greg Hoblit is directing it. Richard Gere, as you mentioned, amongst the other cast. And I honestly, I didn't know too much about the actual project and how deep it was until I actually said yes to the role before I actually read the script. So once I got the script and read it, I was just, wow, this is incredible. I mean, just you can read the script and you still don't really get it until you watch it and you see how they put it together. And it's brilliant. It really is. It's so you think you know where it's going and all the different twists and turns. And it just really was I think it was one of the first films in recent times that had that kind of real twist. It kind of, a lot of films after that kind of, copy that mode.
Yeah, I suppose it got nominated for Emmys and Oscars and sort of multiple awards in terms of that. But it was probably the one of the first movies that showed up the intricacy in terms of the battle between a courtroom and sort of male sexism versus feminism. In
Right.
terms that was a real sort of thing in terms of the courtroom, in terms of could a woman stand up to a man on sort of equal grounds? Is sort of the plagiarism or the showrism in terms of Richard Gere's character, that belief that he was larger than life and sort of untouchable in terms of that, and the bit of the swagger that these high profile lawyers and attorneys, that which is many cases back in the past, that sort of to believe that they were these larger than life personalities.
Yeah, absolutely. It's at a time where like Laura Linney's character, it's so from what I remember, it's been a
Yeah.
while
Yeah.
from what I
1996. Yeah, we're going
yeah,
back
yeah, I was
30 years.
goodness gracious. But yeah, from what her character was very intriguing because she was powerful, just as powerful as Richard Gere's character, especially as a lawyer, and her having to ride that line between her relationship with Richard Gere and her professionalism, and on top of that, like you said, it was these were films that were still okay and showing a lot of male macho, kind of, Richard Gere's character was very strong in his who he was, and it's one of the films where I think Laura Linney's character really showed the strength of as a woman and in that position and having to go and be amongst the men in that world. I think I agree with you. It was one of the first where it just really showed that, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense. So,
And then obviously we had the two sides of Edward Norton's character and the stigma of mental health and schizophrenia, and the sort of obviously then the revelation at the end in terms of the con job there. I say that sort of final sort of twist in terms of that. But in terms of Edward, and you've probably been around Edward on set, for him to go work sort of multiple layers in terms of a character, that must be a challenge as well when you're trying to portray maybe three, four different sides of a character, and playing that whole schizophrenia type character and playing it with seriousness and not making a mockery or of a humor of it, and trying to portray that whole idea of going insanity gone wrong. I imagine that's challenging for an actor as well to play that different types of stages within a movie, where one minute you're this way, and another minute you're this way, the other minute, and having to flip and flip over, flip back, flip over, flip back.
yeah, and Edward Norton. I mean, I believe Primal Fear was really like I think it was the one that put him on the map. That
Yeah.
was his first big job. So yeah, he was great. I remember we got along really well. And since then, I mean, he's truly become one of our greatest actors. And going right now in this generation, and past decade, everything. I mean, he's one to really look up to and learn from because everyone has a different process of how they go about certain roles. And I'm not sure exactly what his process was, but I just know I remember he was very, very calm, very quiet, very humble. Uh, and he might have already been kind of, in a way, method acting, but not, I don't know if he was, but he was kind of already, he took on that persona, and he was so amazing in the film. I mean, he just, it's not an easy job to just play the one character, like you said, but to play that completely opposite version. And then with the twist in the film, it's like, well, which version is really the one that's leading him? Which one is the created version or the schizophrenic side? Which one? That was the big twist.
And John, from your time on set as well, in terms of being involved in Primal Fear, did you ever stay back and watch scenes that you weren't involved in, or do you ever sort of stay around a lot? Or was very much, you mentioned you were involved in probably other projects at the time. Do you remember, were you jumping from set to set or sort of different location? Or did you have a bit of time with the main cast on this movie, or was it very much your time was limited?
Yeah, actually, but my time was limited because I was working on another project at the same time. So I had to fly back and forth, go to LA, shoot my scenes, or go to Chicago. There were some scenes that I did in Chicago with Andre Brower and Richard Gere. Um, so I remember at the time I was kind of in between two other movies. So it was
Okay.
my time was it was really limited. Um, but I will share a super cool moment that I had. It was in LA. Edward Norton and we were rehearsing. I think there's a scene where we're altar boys and stuff, and we're singing in a choir or something. So we had to actually rehearse that song. So I remember we were rehearsing, and after we were done, we were in LA, and I left the studio. I'm standing there waiting for my car to come pick me up, and this gentleman comes up and stands next to me and introduces himself. And he says, I looked at him. I knew exactly who he was right away. He introduces himself like he had to. He's like, "Hi, I'm Robin." And I said, "Oh, I'm John. It's, of course, nice to meet you." It was Robin Williams.
Okay. Can't believe it.
Okay. He was filming at the same time. I think he was filming Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh, wow.
I believe that's the one he was filming. But he was so just calm, quiet. And I just remember he stood next to me, introduced himself, which is Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And then he saw I had a necklace at the time around my neck, and it had a picture of my son
Mm.
as a baby. And I was really young myself. So I don't know, 25, 26. My son was like maybe a year and a half too. Anyway, he saw that. He said, "What is it?" I showed it to him. He said, I just remember him saying, "Oh," he just got so emotional. He said, kids are the best. He said, "They're the best." He said, enjoy him, and then we shook hands, and he went off,
Yeah.
that was,
Amazing
it's
moment.
tough because you see what happened to him years later. Who would have thought that, he's one of the greatest that we've ever had, but I just wanted to share that moment because it was while I was rehearsing for Primal Fear, so it was, yeah.
And John, obviously that time was a very busy time for you. You mentioned you were on the set of two or three movies. Actors at that sort of time, it's a working project. You sort of go from one to another, and sometimes you don't really sort of some actors speaking that they don't really essence or take vibe or soak in what's around them at that time or get a feel maybe that they've been involved in something special, and then probably years later they look back and say, wow, I was really involved in something really great that time that maybe at the time that I didn't really think myself that I was involved in something really, really great that would go on to be something great. Did you get a sense from the minute you walked up to the set of Primal Fear that, yeah, this is going to be a winner, there's something different about this one?
Honestly, I didn't. I didn't. And you're right. It's there was a line in this movie. I can't. Maybe it was Field of Dreams. I think there was a line in that movie where the actor says, "We don't recognize the significant moments in our lives as they're happening." It's only when we look back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember that stuck with me because it's true, like you said, it's hard to recognize those amazing, significant moments. We do on a lot, but your child's born, things like that. But there are a lot that you miss because you could be so busy or you're moving so fast and you just kind of go. Like there was a lot of times I was just going with the flow. I was going from one job to the next job to the next,
Mm.
which is great. But at that, you're right. At that time, I knew it was an amazing film. It was written incredibly. Incredible actors, to be a part of. Um, but I couldn't have known how. I didn't understand how significant it was going to be.
And I suppose you mentioned you were a young actor at the time, Jon Seda, as well, and probably quite all your popularity was sort of rising at the time. But obviously, you were in a sort of a movie there who had really established sort of veterans in terms of legends, in terms of Richard Gere, Andrew Brower, Lord Mercy was still a very popular actor at the time. Terry O'Quinn as well, another one. Did you sort of, as you were going on your sort of career trajectory in terms of movies, did you learn pick significant things in terms of pick up the trade? Did you make a note yourself, right, I'm going to be working with Richard Gere in this movie. There might be sort of little things I might observe or tweaks or something that I might pick up for him that I could sort of add to my repertoire, or was that ever on the mind when you were going to work on a project with that contained a Hollywood big name?
Yeah, absolutely. See now, you might miss recognizing a significant moment
Yeah.
but that said, work wise, I was always keeping my ears open, my eyes open to watch those like a Richard Gere, Andre Brower, people that I have so much respect for. I would just watch how they go about their work, it's the little things, and I would take it with me, add it to my tool chest, and kind of I had my own thing and my own way about going about a character, but I would take little bits of every film I worked on, and anyone who especially those that were ahead of me, that were people that I've grown up watching or have so much respect for. I would take little pieces of what they do and see how it could fit with me, what makes sense, because I remember Richard Gere. We sat in his trailer and rehearsed, and it was so cool that he wanted to do that. I was like, wow, that's great. Richard Gere wants to sit down and rehearse. And we sat down and just went through the script, went through the scenes, talked about the scenes, talked about, why my character would be going this way or that way, or what's the mental thing. And, we just, and it was no, like, he was just uh, uh, very warm and connective. Like he would just connect, and I just it was that was a great experience, and I was very fortunate. Andre Brower, I got to work with after that. We got to work on a show called Homicide for NBC, and that was really cool, And Andre's another one who's just such a great actor. I mean, he should have got an award for Glory from back in the day. But he, rest in peace. Just learning from. I was fortunate to be able to be around so many incredible actors that I was able to learn a lot from.
I suppose 30 years is a long time to rack the brain and to rack the memory, but I imagine you probably remember the some bit about the publicity and the promotion when it came about, when the release of Primal Fear was being released. Do you actually remember around that time? Were you with family, girlfriends, parents, or did you make do you remember any bits about the premiere or for screening, or did you go with family or loved ones and watch it privately at somewhere local, or is it very much a blur?
It's a blur.
Yeah.
Honestly,
It's a
I
blur.
don't really, honestly, I don't remember too. I might have been there and I don't even remember. I mean, to
Yeah.
be honest, that was at a time where I was in the middle of my career, mid 20s, this and that, and look, I made some mistakes and maybe partied a little too much back then. I was just taking job after job, and uh, who knows? I might have been on some other film somewhere,
Mm.
and didn't even realize when it came out. But that's kind of the nature of the biz.
Yeah. Do you remember? Do you obviously you probably don't remember the first time you see it, but you remember when you saw the final production and sort of movie or watching it years later, what were the sort of first sort of reactions that struck to your mind? Will you sort of look at it in terms of other projects you done, in terms of obviously every actor will see all the projects he's involved with, will see the good and probably see the bad, but did you see an awful lot of elements of Primal Fear that you can say, yeah, that was probably a really good production that I was on compared to other ones?
Yeah, it felt like, like one of those big Hollywood movies, like something that's a classic. And, so I was really fortunate to be a part of it. And when I finally saw it, you kind of forget about it a little bit because you're going on to something else that you need to really kind of fill the
Yeah,
place and focus on that, which is good because when I go to see it, I'm kind of remembering and don't remember, and it blew me away. I said, "Wow, this was wow, that's right. This is the twist in this movie. That's right." And the way Edward, because I wasn't there for every scene when Edward Norton was shooting those scenes, and Richard Gere. And so when I got to see it, I said, "Wow, this was incredible. Their performances were incredible, and it hit like the way you read it. It was even better than when you read it. It was done really well.
yeah. And John, I do believe you, from all the learnings that you've done throughout your career, that you're probably looking to take it to the next level now in terms of your own, dare I say, path and journey through life, and a project so special to you that you're trying to bring to life yourself.
That's right. Yeah, I'm trying to branch out and have another part of my career as a director. This is a script that I wrote a while back. I was an amateur boxer before I started acting, and this is an homage to my former boxing trainer, Dominic Buffano. So it's called Dominic and the Kid. It's a boxing drama, and it's something that I'm now starting to get off the ground. I got a producer with me now, Amy Colville, from Red Phoenix Productions. So we're together trying to get this film off the ground. I shot a couple scenes in Chicago with some of the crew from Chicago PD from those shows, and they helped me out, and we got this nice visual. So now it's all about getting the money, getting the funds, and shooting this film and starting this other side of my career. I'm still acting. I'm still looking at projects that I'm looking for things. I'm a little more picky now. I'm looking for things that are really, really make me want to get into. But as I'm looking at that, I'm building this directing side, and we'll see. It's an amazing film, and I'm looking forward to directing it and getting it out there. I think it's gonna be a classic.
And John, obviously, with this time of your career as well, was this something that you could have seen yourself possibly doing 5 years ago, or does it even surprise yourself now, or was this always on the pipeline, nagging you somewhere in the back of your head that this was something that you wanted to push through whenever you got the opportunity?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. I wrote it back in like 2012, 2013. And with work and life and family, I was serious about it, and then I kind of put it on the shelf for a while. Then I got serious and put it on the shelf for a while. So things change. I talked about directing, but I was never really too serious about doing it. And in recent times, it just really feels like this is something that I have to direct. I wrote it. It's in my heart. It's a piece of me. It's inspired by true events that I experienced with Dominic, and I think it's a story that a lot of people will be able to relate to. So I I have the passion, and I feel like with the right team, we're going to get out there. We're going to make a great film.
Looking forward to it. And John, finally, before I let you go, just go back to one last line to finish about Primal Fear. And this is something we ask all our guests in terms of our Intervault cult classic. In your own eyes, Jon Seda, what summarize a movie that defines eras, that defines generations, that people can watch over and over again in terms of a cult classic. What that's meaning to you when someone says to you, do you think that's a cult classic movie? What do you think that sort of represents, and why do you think Primal Fear fits into that, ticks those boxes?
Well, I think when I think classic film, it's something that from beginning to end has you riveted, has you stuck in the story, and it's a journey. And you want to take that journey, and you're on that journey, and you can't get off until you reach that pinnacle moment that it takes you on, and you think you're following it. And it's, to me, a classic is something that just really makes you want to stay to the end and watch it completely and understand it, and and connect to it. And I think that's Primal Fear is definitely that. It's there's certain performances in Hollywood throughout the years that stand out,
Hmm.
and to me that's a classic. When you have a performance that stands out, and Edward Norton's performance in Primal Fear is one of those standout performances that you always will remember. So I think he's gone on to do incredible films and other films, but that Primal Fear is a classic. Richard Gere, Laura Linney, it was great to be a part of, and but I think that defines the writing. Everything in there is just done in a way where it's just a classic Hollywood film.
On that note, all that's left to say is to thank our special guest this evening, Jon Seda. It's great to have him back again, talking about his role as Alex in Primal Fear 1996 and what summarized Primal Fear that goes into our vault, that goes into the bank, and will be forever remembered as a cult classic, no matter the generation, that it can be watched over and over again by an audience and relived and savored again and again. As we said, do check out Primal Fear. It's our movie, our recommendation for our Into the Vault cult classic. Do check it out. Features Richard Gere, Laura Linney, John Mahoney, Edward Norton, Andrew Brower, Terry O'Quinn, Maura Tierney, and the one and only Jon Seda. From me, Jim Conlan, to you, Jon Seda, stay safe, take care, and God bless, sir.
Appreciate you.